Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're reviewing the Bestech Warwolf. This is a pretty cool knife. Let's get right into it. With our size comparisons, obviously. So there is against the Ontario Rat 1. Get the Rat 2 out of his box here. And there's the Rat 2. So it's a good sized knife. Looking at a 3.5-inch blade, so definitely full size. Next up, let's get, there is against the Benchmade Bug Out and the Spyderco PM2. So what we can see is, again, yeah, it's a full-size knife. Right there in my preferred range for carry. Next, let's compare it against our Civivis, which I still have in bags. There's our Elementum. And come here, Praxis. Get over here, bud. Alright, there we go. And the Praxis. And I think these two are kind of comparable in a couple of ways. In my opinion, the Warwolf is to Bestech what the Praxis is to Civivi. So, there's that comparison. And just to end us here, let's do it against a couple of other Bestechs because I like showing off knives, guys. You know me. So, to start with, here it is against the Paladin, the Canto, and the Lion. So, yeah. And last size comparison, just because we can. Here he is against the, oh geez, my swordfish is dirty. Yikes. There he is against the swordfish. And that looks kind of weird, just having one knife as a comparison, so there's the penguin as well. Alright, so. Ugh. Swordfish, you've been being carried too much. Yeah, dirty boy. Alright, so, what are we looking at here? So, we are looking at a D2 blade, harpoon shape, G10 scales, steel liner lock, steel clip. Yeah. Quick note, this particular version of the Bestech Warwolf has been discontinued. However, they're coming out with a new version that has a partly black blade. As you can see here, this blade has satin on the grinds and stonewash on the flats. So, let's go cut up some cardboard and talk about how it carries and everything. So what do you guys think? Is it going to be a cutter? Hi, goat. We have a visitor. Well, let's see if it cuts. It's got a flat grind, or I guess you call this a saber grind if you really want to. But it comes down to a decently thin edge. So, go away. He stinks. Oh yeah. It slices, guys. Yeah. Go ahead and cut off. Stop, you don't want to eat this. Oh, am I kidding? Of course he does. He's a goat. It's a slicer. I wouldn't say it's the absolute best slicer in the world. I have to clean that tape off here in a little bit. But it's definitely a very good cutter for anything that you're going to be using it for. How about the ergos? What you can see from this knife is that it kind of makes a continuous arch. Or arc, or whatever. And, yeah, the ergos are very nice. I've said before I'm not the biggest fan of harpoon blades, but what I do like about a harpoon blade is sometimes get your thumb up in there. My hands are not the biggest. I wish this came back a little bit more, but you can definitely get your thumb up there for more powerful cuts. The way that you hold this knife kind of directs the tip downwards, which might be good for kind of some self-defense applications, in fact. Pull some of this over. Does it stab? Got a nice pokey tip. So really, really nice there. The ergos, very good. I do wish there was some jimping up here, but it's not something to complain about. Action is interesting. Very snappy, but very controlled on the close. So it's okay by my standards. In the pocket, you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but not the deepest carry, but the clip works just fine. So no complaints there. It carries like you'd expect. It's a thick knife, which adds to the comfort in hand, but kind of makes it less good in the pocket. Still carries quite well. Let's go for my overall opinions. Alright, so let's get into the Bestech knives Warwolf a little bit closer. Let's talk about what I'm liking and what I'm not liking. And as always, we're going to start with what I like. And the first thing about this knife that really just kind of stands out to me are the ergos. These are really nice, actually. As you can see, the handle is interesting because it has a neutral shape, kind of, but also has these really neat lines and milling in the G10. It has places like this where you think that'd be a sharp corner, but when you're holding it, no, not sharp at all. Really comfortable for my smallish hands. And if you have bigger hands than me, what you can see back here is they have these little jimps. Get your finger on there, choke back, and you still have a secure grip. So that's really great. Also, if you have bigger hands than me, you can probably get your thumb up behind this a lot easier. I can do it. It's a little bit of a less natural position, I guess is the way to say it, but still works great. So yeah, ergos are very nice. Another thing I want to talk about is the relationship of ergos to utility, which isn't something I've talked about very often in other knives, which maybe I kind of should, but what I mean is, how do I describe this? If you look at this knife, you see it's a continuous arc. And just a sec, we'll wait for that truck to go by. Don't know if you guys could hear that as loud as I could, but a loud semi-truck on the highway. Anyways, it has an arc. And so what that means is when you hold it in your hands, it puts the tip downward. And so this makes it good for like utility cuts. In fact, utility cuts with this knife are awesome. You can get your finger up here. You can do like that. Makes it good for piercing. When you're doing a slice, it kind of helps direct the blade, from if you start here with the material, it helps you pull through. So, yeah, I think the design of this knife as far as ergonomics go was really, really well thought out. Next thing I like is the action. So the action is really, really interesting on this guy. When I first got into the EDC knife community, this was the very first Bestech knife I ever heard of, was a Warwolf. And I heard a lot of people talking about the action being just really good and, this teardrop-shaped flipper tab. And, yeah, this thing rockets out. It's not exactly drop shut or even really shake shut. You can do it, but it's not as smooth as other knives. For example, let's bring out just another Bestech I happen to have laying here. Here's the Penguin. Watch this on the close. See it? Yeah. Snaps out and then drop, catch on your thumb, the rest of the way. This knife doesn't really do that. It has a very strong detent. So it rockets the blade out, and then on the close, if you do it like this, it's very smooth and consistent. But if you try and shake it shut, it's not as satisfying as, or I guess that's not the word. It's a different type of action, because I still really enjoy that type of action. Like I said, fires out so snappy, and then it's smooth. You can fire this in a couple of ways. Push button, since this is round, works just fine. Light switch, you can do that as well. So really, really cool. I think Bestech always does a great job designing their flipper tabs. This flipper tab is shaped very well to give you the ultimate amount of leverage. There's no jimping on it, but usually I prefer jimping on my flipper tabs, but this one doesn't really need it. So yeah, it works fine. Great action. Next thing I want to talk about, the G10 on the scales here. It's really nice. I really like Bestech's G10. As you can see, this knife is thick, which adds to the ergonomics. It makes it really comfortable in hand. But I like all the milling they've done on this guy. Really, really cool. Sintering, perfect. Fit and finish was really good right out of the box. The clip. This is a good clip. I have no problems with this clip, really. It's not exactly deep carry, but it's not like, there's not that much to the knife sticking out of your pocket, so I think it's good. The clip goes in and out of the pocket fine. It's got plenty of spring. As you can see, it has a continuous ramp, so it climbs over your pocket pretty good. My one problem with it is that it's not reversible, but it's going to be an issue for some people, and it's not going to be an issue for others. And next thing, the blade is actually pretty nice. So we have a saber grind. This is D2 steel, and I like the finish that they've done here. So as you can see, we have a stonewash on the flats and satin on the grinds, both this grind for the edge and this swedge up here. So that's really cool. I like that finish quite a bit. And the knife itself slices pretty well. This is not going to be something like an open L. It's not going to be a laser, but it works just fine for EDC. And this knife, I think, is kind of geared toward that area that, multifunctionality between EDC and self-defense. And so, yeah, it slices well. It's not super thick behind the edge. It's not super thin, like I said, but it slices just fine. It works really good. So the blade, yeah, it functionally, it's a good blade, especially for what I think the knife is intending it to be used for. Next thing, access to the liner. Really good. You see they give you plenty of room to get in there. They don't have any grooves on the liner, but that's okay. I think that sometimes just having a flat liner is good. Lockup, really solid. So yeah, overall, just the overall word that comes to mind when I think of this knife is solid. It feels solid, it's built solid, and it functions just solid. So let's get into what I don't like. So first of all, I'm not a big fan of harpoon blades. This is completely subjective, but I don't like harpoon blades. They're just not my thing. This one is not the worst one I've seen. I kind of wish the swedge came back a little bit further, just for my personal taste. Like, my thumb wants to be here. I wish that lined up a little bit better there. It's not the worst harpoon I've seen, but also, I'm just not a harpoon fan. If you are, though, this will be good for you. And again, for what this knife is intended for, I think a harpoon blade shape is completely acceptable. And yeah. Next thing, we already talked about the clip not being reversible. T6 hardware. I mean, I'd rather it be T8, but there's only two body screws, so it's not that bad. Next, I do wish there's jimping up here on the blade. I really wish there's some jimping up here, just to give it a little more. I don't know. I just wish there was some jimping up there. And that might actually be it. There's not a whole lot to say about this knife. So let's go right into my final conclusions, which are, this is a really solid knife. If you're looking at this knife and you're wanting to buy it, yeah, go ahead. It's a full-size knife. I think it'll work good for both EDC and self-defense in a pinch if you have to. It's built very well. The only deal breakers I can think of are, if you just don't like the design, which I'm not a big fan of harpoons, but, whatever. The thickness might make it a little bit awkward for some people in the pocket. Clip is not reversible. A little bit of a lack of jimping. And the action is, I think the action is going to be for some people and not for other people. But, I mean, come on, this is a solid winner from Bestech. And yes, this particular version has been discontinued, but Bestech is coming out with the new version that has the partially black blade. So, in fact, I think on that new one, I'll have to look again. I'll put up a picture or something. I think the flats are black and there's satin or stonewash on on the flats and the grinds are black. I don't know, I'll have to check again. But yeah, just a really solid Bestech folder. At the price of $52, you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. I think that's a solid price. This is a good knife. I would consider this to be a pretty tough, hard-working knife. If you needed it to be, you know, great ergos, good functionality. It's definitely got a design that's going to appeal to some people. And yeah, I like it. Even though it's not personally my taste, I like this knife a whole lot. And is it recommendable? Yes, 100%. If you're looking at this and you're liking what you see, go ahead and pick one up. And that's going to be it for today, guys. I've been Gideon Stuff. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.